in my lifetime was give a eulogy for my 5-year-old nephews. You know, I'm sure it will still, obviously, probably one of the hardest things I'll ever do in my life. Because you're not supposed to bury your own children. You know, I mean, everybody knows that. You're supposed to grow old and watch your kids grow old. You know, I wasn't here when Connor had his graduation, but you know, my brother Doug, his other uncle, was saying, "Gosh, it's incredible. It just seemed like yesterday he was up on that stage." The point I want to make is these are tragedies that are not supposed to happen, and they are preventable. It's senseless. You know, I had the good fortune when I played baseball to work with a lot of different charities. Sometimes it was tough to see the end, see the finish line. You know, whether it was when you visited kids in the oncology unit, you know, and you felt so bad because there wasn't a cure for these kids that were sitting there sick, laying in their beds at the hospitals. Or if it was, you know, some kid with, I don't know, pediatric AIDS or something like that. You know, when you just, it was hard to see the finish line because it was hard, you know, you just wasn't sure if there was ever going to be a cure for what these kids were suffering from. But I look what my little nephew Connor went through, and this is something that was so preventable. And I'm so glad that Tom and Debbie did have the perseverance, the wherewithal to see the lawsuit through, like Briggs had mentioned. Because if for anything else, they could finally put a stake into this and make DRD accountable. You know, and we could say the name DRD management. And to me, that was one of the biggest accomplishments that we could get out of it. It's not about the money. Everybody knows, our family knows that. It has nothing to do with the money. I don't care if they would have awarded my sister $50 million or however much money. You can't put a price on a kid's life. There's no question about that. But the fact that we could finally say that DRD management was grossly negligent and help hold them accountable. Because like Briggs said, for me to sit in that courtroom and that whole week and to listen, and then, like you said, Briggs, the audacity of some of the stuff they had to say. I'm glad you brought that up again because I wanted to say something about that. The fact that that man could sit there and say, we are not in this business of save lives. How can you say that when the lifeguard itself says you are guarding lives? And yet you have the audacity to sit up there and say that we are not in the business to do that. You can't put dollars and cents on that. But the fact of the matter is, these, like I said, this was something that was so preventable that all it took was proper training for these lifeguards. I don't blame, you know, I mean, let's face it, we were all young once, you know, and these kids get up there and they think it's going to be a fun job in the summer, you know, and they're going to have fun, and, it's just a little fun job in the summer. I don't blame them for that, but I blame the companies that are supposed to be training them the right way, that they need to know that this is a serious job. This is a job where they are supposed to save lives, and you have to be on the ball 24/7. You cannot stop. Keeping your eyes off that pole. And the other thing, though, is that something that's so preventable is the fact that they did have a defibrillator there at the pole that day, and that for some strange reason, there was only one man that was allowed to use that defibrillator, and he was not on site there at the pole. And I just, for the life of me, cannot figure that out. So one of the things that I'm going to do tonight that I told Debbie is that I'm writing her a check for $1,500 because that's the cost of one defibrillator. It's going to go to right to the Connor Cares Foundation, and then in turn that'll go to Cheryl Lane DeHart, who you're going to hear from soon, to purchase one defibrillator. But obviously that's just a small dent. You know, I hope that I can make it. I can help out a little bit, but make it a small little dent like that. Because our goal is to make sure that every single Anne Arundel County pole has a defibrillator on site, and that God forbid if something else happens like this again, that they can have a defibrillator, use it correctly, and maybe save a life, so another family doesn't have to go through what our family went through. Because that's the main purpose. Like this thing has said, not one more child drowns, and that's the whole purpose while we're here. And before I leave, I just really do want to say thank you to James and Briggs and everybody else here that's speaking here tonight. I want to thank the girl from the Capitol that came here tonight, because there's no question in my mind that there's no way that our family could have gotten through this without the love and support of each one of everybody in our family, but also without the love and support of everybody here in this community. Because it really does show you how much people care about the support that everybody that showed up in the past events, and that I know will continue to show up in the future. And that's what I said when I at the eulogy. I told everybody, just remember what my sister went through. Don't forget this day, because I know there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about that little boy. Being a father of 3 kids myself, you know, I just don't know how Debbie gets by, but I know how she does, don't get me wrong, because I love and support of everybody here, but you know, Debbie, that there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about you, and I don't think about Connor, too, and those beautiful blue eyes of his. And so that's why, with the love and support and the help, and the one thing I do want to say also, too, like James and Brick said, you know, it doesn't take a lot either, too. When I'm not talking about, you know, everybody realizes it takes money now for defibrillators and stuff like that, but it doesn't take a cent to pick up the phone and call your legislators and say, you know, we want this bill passed. You know, there's no excuse why there shouldn't be 2 lifeguards up. I know as a parent, it's hard as heck to watch my 3 kids. So let alone, I can't imagine have my eyes on 50 kids in a pool. And that's what we're talking about. Why is there only 1 lifeguard up per 50 kids in pools? To me, that's unacceptable. Because like I said, it's hard, it's convenient just for me to keep my eyes on my own 3 kids at one pool at a time, in a daytime like that. So, things like that, being able to call, just pick up the phone or send an email or go down there and say something to your legislators and say, we want this bill passed. Because it is all about safety, it's not about dollars and cents. So once again, I want to thank everybody for coming out here and showing your support today. Thank you.